there, Tracy here for Trinity Stamps. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this adorable light-up mini shaker pumpkin-shaped card. Let's get started. Okay, so we have the pumpkin-shaped card die set, brand new in the Trinity Stamps release for August. And we'll be using several of the pieces from that. I've got the stem piece and I've got the outer piece, and I'm going to make two of those. And I already have my card shape cut out. And then we're going to be using the Life is Gourd Gnome stamp and die set. And I changed my mind later. At first I think I'm going to use the halo lights or maybe a one light, but I changed my mind and switch over to the Twinkle lights. But these are all from Pear Blossom Press. I ended up thinking Twinkle lights are going to be best on this. So I started out by cutting out my shapes, and you see I've got my card base there up above. I've got my little stem, but I'm going to start with my background piece. And I'm going to kind of decide where my little gnome is going to go. And actually, that's my top piece. Let me get this straight here. I'm going to cut the gnome right out of that. So I've got that cut out. I've got my background piece. I've got my foreground piece. I've got my little stem. I'm going to start out by coloring the background piece. So in coloring this, I'm thinking about the inside of a pumpkin, which is usually yellow, and especially if it's lit up. I don't have anything to make pumpkin guts, and typically when I clean my pumpkins, I'm a little bit overzealous with them, and I do a lot of scrapings, so I don't have to deal with that. But I'm going with the yellows here, and I'm just using a blending brush. And I have these brushes specifically for my Distress Oxides. I don't like to mix them. And my precious blending buddies, I'm saving for just dye inks. So I'm just kind of coloring this in, and I'm doing kind of a gradiated light. So a little darker at the top, a little lighter towards the bottom, as if it were being lit up with a little candle like we put inside of our pumpkins. And I don't know why I'm bothering to go dark along that one edge, because you're never going to see it. But, you know, just the way my brain works. And then I'm going to come in with some dried marigold and add just a little bit of an orange tint to that. I'm just going to use the same brush. I'm just going to kind of come in a little darker at the top with the dried marigold. And again, you're never going to see that, but in my mind, it needed to work that way. You could basically just do the area where your little gnome's going to sit and forget the rest, a little bit around it, because, you know, we're going to be popped up on foam tape. But anyway, I feel like my background piece is complete, so there's that. And then I'm going to go ahead and do some splatters in that, just a couple of sprays of water. Must be looking for my water. Always looking for something. There it is. Okay. And the way I like to do it often to get smaller splatters is to just use my fan brush. I just spray a little water on my surface and then tap my fan brush on my finger after I've dipped it into the water. And then I'll go ahead and just let that sit for about, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and then I'll lift. And that'll just give me some, you know, more organic feel to the inside of the pumpkin. All right, we'll move that aside, and now we're going to color our foundation, our outside piece. And that's what you're going to see most of. And I'm going to come in with oranges on that. So I'm just cleaning off my brush here off to the side, and I'm going to start in the center with dried marigold, so the lightest color. And then I'll speed this up a little bit because it's just ink blending. I'll come in with the darker, which is going to be the carved pumpkin. And then I'll do just above and just below that center part. So I'm just kind of trying to get a central highlight so that our pumpkin has a little bit more shape. What's cool about this pumpkin is that you can actually put, where you see those lines, they're actually splits. And you can actually raise parts of those up if you want to, with a little foam tape. And then I'm just coming along these lines and just lightly rubbing to kind of get a little bit of definition there. And I'm going to pull this off of my sticky mat here, and I'm going to do some splattering on it. So I've got it here in my Messy Messy Splat Box, my well-loved splat box, and I'm using the Dina Wakley gloss, and it's a spray gloss, but I just take the cap off and I just kind of tap the dots on. Sometimes when you're doing it that way, and beware because you'll see where I smooch it, they'll get a little big, and then you can go the brush route if you want to. And then I'm going to come in with the same media gloss, which is black, and I'm going to throw some black dots on there so that I've just got, you know, again, sort of an organic feel to my pumpkin. But you see I've got a big white splotch, and then I got a big black splotch. I try to fix that with paint, etc., etc. It doesn't totally fix, but it's not a big deal because pumpkins aren't perfect. So you'll see that later, how that winds up. I try going over it with ink, but ink doesn't want to cover the black. So, it is what it is. I'll fix it off camera because it will drive me crazy. Even though I'm sitting here saying it is what it is, it will still drive me crazy. So I'm going to take some peel paint here and still, again, working with Distress Oxides. And I'm going to color in this stem. And I'm not doing any fancy schmancy coloring on the stem. I'm just going to color it, and then I'm going to come in with my brown, you know, this thing you'll see here in a minute, that little that little thing, and just kind of go around the edges. And I believe it's probably got scorched timber on it. I didn't even add ink to it. It's just something I grabbed for distressing. So let's see if I can pick this up and move it aside. And then I'm going to go ahead and clean off my mess here and move on to the next step, which is our gnome. And I will show a still frame of the colors that I used. And I'm going to show coloring the beard because I do make this gnome a redhead. I just love my redhead, so there's that. And then I'm going to be using our brand new little bead, micro bead embellishments for the shaker portion. So I'll go ahead and stamp him down, and I'm going to go 3 times on this. I just like a nice dark black, and so I feel like I'd rather do 3 light stampings rather than smoosh down on my stamp and, you know, take a risk of losing some of the fine lines in there. So we'll just do 3 times and we'll let him dry a little bit. Always make sure to let these dry after you've stamped them, and especially if you're working with alcohol inks, but with anything basically. So he's nice and dry, so I'm going to start with his beard, and I'm just going to come in with the darkest orange shade for all the shading. And then I'm going to come in with the lightest and kind of fill in, and then I'm just going to kind of go in between. And I'm just basically kind of going back and forth with these colors, just adding dimension to that beard. And then you see there I've got a little orange gel pen, and I'm going to use that for the highlights in his beard. So there I've got my little red-headed gnome, and now he's all colored. And I am going to fussy cut that out off camera because what I want is I want a border around him on the outside, but I want the yellow in the background. So we'll go ahead and get him cut out. And now we've got him all cut out. And I've just taken a little Tombow marker and gone around any edges that are still kind of white sticking out. And then here I've got my Twinkle lights. So we're going to go ahead and place our lights. And the lights I'm going to put in the jack-o'-lantern. So he's going to have a lit jack-o'-lantern within a lit jack-o'-lantern. Well, well. I'm just checking where my light is. And I'm just going to tape them down to where I want them. And, you know, when you're doing this, you do have to flip it over and test and flip it over and test. So if you're using tape, don't tape down really hard until you're positive where your light wants to be. Because I did do some backs and forths with this. And trust me, I had my tape stuck. You know, here's the thing, the beauty of YouTube video and pre-recording is that you could cut out the bad parts or the frustrating parts, because I mean, you guys know that we all have our struggles, and a lot of times I will show those on camera, and I have a huge struggle with this one, and And you don't see any of that, but I had my placement wrong on my foam tape, and it was like doubled up in one spot. And it was after I had it all glued down with the little shaker bits in it. And I had to pull it back up, and my shaker bits flew everywhere, and it was, yeah, you know, you know how it goes. So I'm just testing again, making sure I have my light, you know, facing the right direction. Okay, let's get that straight. There, see, I did show me trying to redo this light, so I'm happy with the placement. There we go. All right, we're golden on that. Okay, now we need to, I'm going to use some very low profile foam tape. So this is 1mm foam tape, because it doesn't need to be up high where he is. You know, it needs to be up high where the light apparatus is, but not on him. But it does need to be popped up just a little bit. So I'm just going to go all the way around him. And actually, yeah, the shaker part's down below. So, well, you'll see. You'll see in a minute here. Yeah, the only thing is I have to peel off, you know, so I can get around these corners. And my fingers like to stick to it. So that's another way to get shaker bits everywhere. Your finger sticks to it, it pops. Your little shaker balls fly everywhere. All right. We're ready with that. I'll just add a little bit of extra down here because I don't want to waste any of my foam tape. Okay, he's ready to go. So now what I have to do is I have to place him. So I'm going to take my top piece, and I'm going to put the top piece and the bottom piece together so they're together and matched up best I can. And then I'm just going to take a little piece of tape and make a hinge here, just so I can get the placement proper on the little gnome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a white pencil, and I'm actually going to trace around the inside so I can see where the boundaries of where to lay my gnome. And you'll never see that, so that's why the white pencil. I'm just coming all the way around it. And see, you can't see it at all, so we're good. All right. I'm going to try a different pencil because that one didn't show up very well. This one's showing up just fine. So you can see the little border of his hat. It's basically all you can see on camera, but there's more to see. Trust me. So I'm going to add a little glue. Maybe fumble around a little bit. And I do like to add glue to my foam tape for so many reasons, but mostly so that I have a little bit of wiggle room to move it around. I'm going to lay him down, and then I'm just going to set that and see why I need room to wiggle. There we go. He's placed properly. Now I'm just going to take my wires, and I'm just going to kind of tuck them underneath. And go ahead and remove that top piece because I'll be putting foam tape on that pretty soon. And then I'm just going to fiddle around until I've got good placement of my light, kind of have an idea where I want my push to be. And I'll go ahead and tape those wires down, and then I'll add my foam tape. All right, I've got everything secured here. Now I've got my foam tape. This is the world's best foam tape. And what I've done is I've sliced that in half, and I'll show you a little bit later in the video how I do that. And it's not perfect, but it's okay. I just needed the strips to be thinner so that you know, it can fit into those skinnier areas of my jack-o'-lantern. So I'm going to cut out a piece of acetate here. I just needed it larger than my aperture there for my gnome. And I'm just going to use some liquid glue and glue that down. Because I'll be using foam tape over top of it, I feel secure just using glue. Okay, so there's kind of an idea, and I always like to get an idea. So now we're going to make our shaker portion. And I'm going to use these thinner strips, and I'm going to peel the backer off of them. And these aren't as sticky on your fingers as some. They're still sticky on your fingers, but not as. So when you take that backer off, it's just a lot easier to bend around corners and things like that. And I just want to make sure that everything's covered there, because that is where our shaker bits are going to go. I'll just peel a little bit off the next piece because I know I don't need the whole thing. And I might fiddle with it there a little bit, trying to get it to stick. Try and get my fingers to press down on it. You do have to press before it'll stick, by the way, just in case you didn't know. All right, let's get this end to stick and the other end to stick, and then we'll be golden. All right, that's ready to roll. So let me just kind of move things, make sure there's no tape showing through, make sure that my opening is covered there so that it's completely secure. And then I'll put the rest of my foam tape around the outside of, like around the outside of the light and such. And now you can see why I needed to cut this down, so that it doesn't come through, so you don't see it at all. I'm just kind of wrapping this around and then pulling it up around the edge. But it's at the top part there that I run into trouble, because the two overlap. And so I fix it, right? And initially I fixed it on camera, but I thought that took up too much time. All I needed was to put it up a little bit higher. So just be mindful of that. That, you know, if you're gluing one piece to another, that your foam tapes aren't going to collide. So here's how I trim my foam tape. I've got this little cutting mat, and I just take a piece, I pull it off, I cut off the amount that I want, and then I'll just take my ruler, and let's use the middle end of the ruler T. Flip it, hurry up, flip it over. Okay. I'm just going to use my little finger blade knife and just, you know, follow that line. You don't need to use a ruler because it slips anyway, but, you know, I felt better about it, so there's that. So there I've got a nice thin piece. Eventually, I would say that Amanda will be looking at making some thinner profile strips, because, you know, in a lot of cases you do need a thinner strip. So I'm just going to peel off the backer so I can bend it around again. Going to just pick this up, and this is why we love World's Best Foam Tape, because you can still do that. And I'll complete this little circuit here. And that's not a shaker part, but I still like to have the whole thing so that it's, you know, basically sealed. And then I'll just take this excess piece and stick it here and there for added support. Maybe stick it to myself. All right, I've got all my wires stuck down. Everything's looking good. You won't really see those little extra wires there, so I'm not worried about them. And by the way, I will have everything linked down below that I used in this video from Trinity Stamps, so that it's easy for you to find. All right, so we're ready to start building and complete this card. So I'm going to add my shaker bits. And this is me after I took it apart and had my first accident. So I'm just pouring shaker bits in that little gnome piece, and that's ready to go. All we need to do is put the card together, put our little push button on there. So I'm going to glue my whole apparatus here down to the craft card base. Make sure I don't have any foam tape that you can see. And then I'm just going to pop up this little stem piece so it sort of matches. And I'm just cutting some really, really thin foam so it doesn't show. I'm just trimming off the excess. We'll pop that down right there. You see where my boo-boo was, and I did my best to fix it. But again, it's a pumpkin, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And I just put a little white mark, and I put it kind of, not the same as the others, where I'm going to put my push. And that's from the Trinity Stamps interactive card stamp set. So there he is, lighting up. And that's my card. I hope you like it, and I hope you like this video. And we sure hope to see you shopping here. Thanks so much for coming, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.